This is Devlog 4 for my personal game project, Caver. It has now been 3 months since the start of this project, and I decided to make a more thorough devlog this time, both to force myself to analyze and compile what I have learned, but also to serve as a reference if I ever need to refresh my knowledge. And maybe someone else might benefit from the things I've learned here as well. Let's get into this devlog. So, the progress I've made is sound effects. I've added a sword sound effect, a cannon sound effect, and a boss idle sound effect. I've added backgrounds for level 1, 3 and 5. I upgraded the boss level tile so it looks a bit more clean. Animation groundwork for the boss and the player. A walk cycle and idle animations for the player are done. I've also made an animated laser projectile that spawns if you click while having cannon mode active. I've added different power modes, like glider or no glider, power jump or no power jump. Both of these respectively use energy from an energy system that you constantly need to replenish. Levels have been built and decorated. Sound effects for enemies along with improvements in the parent enemy's AI. Some dead exploration mates have been added, and I've done some world building. Some of the biggest issues I've encountered in the last month are among drawing pixel art. Hand-drawn pixel art animation takes time, and it requires a lot of caution and precision and several steps if you want to make it beautiful. Making music with different themes is difficult too, as making an intense boss fight track has been very difficult compared to a simpler ambient background music. I want to dive a bit deeper into the issues with music, as I found it particularly challenging. First of all, from studying other people's work, I've found that a boss song usually consists of quite a lot of different parts. There are calmer parts, there are parts with higher tempo, there are transitions between the parts, there are different instruments and sounds used in every part. And it's all in all, it's quite complicated, and it consists of a lot more variation and parts than an ambient song might have. Secondly, it cannot just be a bunch of growly sounds. It can't just be a bunch of instruments that capture the feel of a boss fight, but doesn't, in combination, create the specific theme and feel that I have in this game. For example, having a metal song in this game. Yes, it might work as a boss song, but it will not fit into the environment at all. And that requires a lot of testing and experimenting to find what fits. Especially for me, that a person who doesn't have much experience with making music. And it also must use the same leitmotif that I've already used in an earlier song. The third issue I had was with the coding. There was one particular issue about the difference of a draw event and a collision rectangle event. For some reason, the collision rectangle reaches further than if you use the exact same x and y numbers in a draw rectangle event. Let's look at this example here. In both examples, the draw rectangle does not collide with the roof. But in the right one, the code that runs if you collide with the roof is running, which means that it's registering the collision even though you can clearly see that it is not colliding with the roof at all. And that was very hard to solve, because it simply means that there are some invisible extensions to collision's rectangle I've drawn. I don't know if it's a bug in GameMaker or not, but either way, I don't think it should work like that. You should be able to draw out your collisions rectangles with a draw rectangle event, and they should look exactly the same. And even activating precise collisions in the collision rectangle event has no effect. So, going forward, what do I have to do? What are my plans? I plan to add some shaders, some lighting to the world, as well as some decorative elements that are placed in front of the game itself. I'm planning to add some darkness into level 4 that's going to be lit up by lasers and the player. I need to make separate programming for the boss enemy, as it should have some more unique behavior compared to the enemy AI. I have about 20 plus animations left to complete. That includes making the rough fundaments and refining it. I have about 40 sound effects left to make. That includes wolf barks, wolf attack sounds, boss attack sounds, the stalker attack sounds, death sounds, damaged sounds, and so on. A starting cutscene, that's a bit like animation that sort of introduces you to the story, and then a starting sequence, which is animated game objects in the game world, a UI that you see when you play the game. For example, I want to be able to see if I've picked up an artifact or not, as well as which mode I'm in, if I'm using a cannon or a sword. I need to add a main menu, some text for that, and a background. Some buttons like play game, options, and quit. And there is some music left to do, specifically the boss fight and 4 level music songs. And one of those is unique to the artifact room. What are some big lessons? Sometimes sleeping on a coding issue is actually the best way to solve it. I remember one issue that I spent hours trying to solve one night, then I went to bed, and the next day I could solve it in 5 minutes, which is quite unintuitive if you think about it. Develop a process for making art that works for you. For me, making a rough version where fundamentals are decided before refining and making it look nice works best. But you need to find what allows you to go from idea in your head to completed work that you can use in a game or publish or put in a painting or do whatever with. One lesson is the importance of perseverance. It's absolutely crucial that you don't give up. You must get to a point where you're able to work every day, even if you don't want to. I cannot give any tips on how to reach that point, as I think the journey to that point is quite unique for each person. And besides, I think that's a whole other video in and of itself. Adding comments to code is essential. You can save a lot of time if you just put comments into the code so you can reference to it later on. For example, if it passes 30 days between you writing the code and you going back to debug the code, it's going to save you a lot of time if you can just read comments instead of having to re-understand all of the code. It's also important that you make the code modular, which will help you further down in development when the game inevitably grows. Design your code and think about it before starting to write it. Find the best solution among the many you may find when solving a problem. It's very easy to just sit down and start making a solution, which more often than not leads to a bad solution. It's better to sit down and look at the different options you have and find which code is modular, which one is most straightforward, which one can handle errors the best. And on a final note, maybe you want to make games and you see this and wonder how it is possible or not. I don't know, but if you think that and get discouraged by seeing this, remember that this is a result of a lot of hard work, luck, and opportunities. Don't be discouraged by seeing other people's work. Remember that they are humans just like you. Their own struggles, their own issues, their own doubts about if they should continue or not. Even if someone makes something that you think is absolutely impossible to make. They might have thought the exact same thing at some point in their life. And yeah, that was it for Devlog 4.